All right, welcome back everybody to Pivot Point of View. I'm Destri Millsap along with Becky Pearson. And man, we've had a run of great guests and great episodes here lately. We just did a two-part episode with Phil Haugen. If you haven't listened to that, Phil is an amazing guy. Go back, listen to both parts. We had Dr. Dobie on here. He had an incredible message on his maturity program and just his own professional growth. I mean, we got some great episodes. It's been just an amazing month here. So I just got back from the National High School Finals in Rock Springs, and so we're gonna recap that and talk about some of the stuff that we we did up there and kind of just how the high school finals works if you don't know. I got a lot of history there. When I was in high school, that was always the goal. I mean, that's the biggest rodeo of your career. And whether you believe you can do it or not, if you work hard, then you can dang sure have a chance. And so I made it to the National High School Finals my sophomore and senior year. And at that time, my sophomore year was in Gillette, and that was probably my favorite place ever. It still is. I've now been able to work the finals in Gillette, and it's still my favorite place. And then my senior year was in Springfield, and when I was in Gillette, um, and then I was a state director, team roping vice president for the student side of things in the Nebraska high school rodeo. So we got to do a lot of stuff on the national level. When I was vice president and stuff, and that was a ton of fun getting to meet all those people. It's a ton of history there, and it's one of my favorite events, and it's an honor to get to work it every year with Pratt Regional Medical Center, Doc Miller and his crew. I worked my first one in 2019, and it's just been a really a full circle deal. I was a competitor there when I was in college. As a freshman in college, I worked for Dan Mundorf, who at that time had the timed event cattle, and so I worked the junior high finals in Gallup,
Oh,
and then the high school finals in Farmington with the stock contracting side of things, which was a whirlwind and crazy deal in itself. I mean, I've about been on all sides of this deal.
yeah.
Competitor, stock contracting. Uh, I even wrote bulls out at Gallup. I hope I never do that again. That was crazy. That was
That
not
Gallup
fun.
facility, we laid over there in Gallup. That is a cool facility, but I can't imagine that many kids in that little area.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's it, and really, it's pretty user friendly. It was pretty user friendly for us. We spent 3 weeks there, and you have those. Yeah, it was a long time, and you're taking care of animals in New Mexico, and I mean, you talk about junior tie down and the goats and everything else. The breakaway calves and team roping steers and bulldog and steers, they all stay pretty straight, but taking care of those baby calves and the goats was a lot of work. I mean, every time you walk by a goat, you give it a shot of LA 200, and then the baby calves, Dan's program, he's amazing. He has just so much knowledge on he's probably the only person that ever made money on a roping calf.
How did you get connected to be able to cover the high school finals? Like, how did that all work out? I know that you did the sports medicine coverage for Great Plains when you were here in Nebraska. Is that kind of what opened the door for you to get out there to the high school finals, or what opened that door?
Actually, no. When I was in college, so Doc Miller was with Kansas Orthopedic at the time. And so when I was in college at Alva, their group covered all the college rodeos, and they covered like Kansas high school rodeos and national finals and all that stuff. And so when I was going through it, I hurt my shoulder, and I had Doc Miller fix my shoulder. And then I also um, met Doc Blanton, and he's a chiropractor, and he worked on me a ton during college, and we always stayed in touch. And he's actually the one that got me on the team, and he goes out there with them every time. So the team that we have is very diverse. We have a chiropractor, we have 4 athletic trainers, we had an orthopedic surgeon, family practice doc, who Dr. Moffat is. He's not your ordinary family practice doc. He's an old school guy. And it's like the doctor that you and I grew up with, that's
Mm.
him. And so like he knows things and does things that just get overlooked now. And his approach is just, it is so awesome to learn from guys like that and learn the old ways. And because he doesn't rely on gadgets to make diagnoses or anything else. It's all experience and his observation and his evaluation. I mean, that is vital in this situation. You don't have gadgets in the sports medicine trailer a lot of the time. And, you know, some sports med trailers might have an ultrasound or an X-ray or whatever the bigger time deals, but like we don't have the gadgets. We have our hands and whatever else we got to evaluate is mostly experience, and just the amount of experience on that team is absolutely incredible. I mean, in that trailer, there's over 150 plus years of experience, medical experience, and so it's just an awesome team to work on, and just an honor to be a part of it every year. I've been doing it since 2019, and it was actually my first one was in Rock Springs, and man, that rodeo was wild. I mean, we flew probably two or three kids out that year, and had a bunch of other stuff that was pretty serious. So, and it's not always like that. I mean, like this year, we didn't really have much. I mean, like compared to some years, we didn't really have much in the rough stock arena, but the time event arena, we were. I mean, that was the only ambulance that we sent was from the time event arena this year, and that was a really bad deal. But um, yeah, you just never know what you're gonna have every year. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so some of the injuries that you saw, you had told me about, you had a goat tire, that had a torn ACL. What are some of the other injuries that you saw this past week?
So if you don't know anything about the high school finals, people come from all over the United States. There's kids from a bunch of different states, 5 different countries. They added New Zealand this year. It's been Australia, Canada, Mexico, United States, and now New Zealand, and they brought a team. So it's a really big deal. It's over 1,800 contestants there, and um, you know, so the first round starts on Sunday night, and then it goes through Wednesday morning, and then the second round they flip the draw, and if you're up Wednesday morning, you'll go Wednesday night, and then on the round goes till Saturday morning. So it's a marathon, man, and the draw matters, especially if you have an injury. And so, like you mentioned, the goat tire that she tore her ACL. She tore it on Sunday night. So we have until Saturday morning to see if she's going to be able to compete. And what she did is not a common thing. I mean, she worked her tail off, and thankfully, the nature of her tear was allowed us to be able to do what we could do with it. But so she comes into the trailer Monday morning, and we're gonna start rehabbing. And I'm looking at it, and the first thing I'm thinking of is what is her alignment like? And so luckily we have the luxury of having an amazing chiropractor there, Dr. Jeff Blanton, who is a magician, and I mean he's one of the best of the business, and so I have him check her out, and he knows what's going on. So he adjusts her knee, her ankle, and her hip, make sure that everything is lined up and functioning properly. And then it makes the rest of this deal go completely smooth. I mean, we focus on muscle activation and mobility the first 2 days, and get her to a place where we feel like, all right, now we can progress her to weight bearing. And so Wednesday morning, we progress her and we start doing some weight bearing exercises, squats, single leg work, step ups, things like that. She does really well. So Wednesday afternoon, they have practice. They have a practice pin for everybody, and they have it every day. So we're like, all right, Wednesday night, I want you to tie the goat on the ground. So don't run at the goat, don't cut, don't do anything like that. Just tie the goat on the ground. So she goes, ties the goat on the ground. It goes well. Thursday, she has a doctor's appointment, MRI, confirms a tear, gets a brace, and comes back to us. And so Thursday morning, we rehabbed her, and we did some dynamic work. We did some popping exercises. We did a functional warm up. That all went great. So goes to the doctor, gets the brace. She comes back. and we show up early. I tape her up. We put the brace on, and then we go to the practice pen. And so I go to the practice pen, put her through a functional warm up, and kind of tell her, I'm like, look, if you go to change direction, you have to break down. You cannot. You're gonna have to get your hips underneath you to take pressure off that knee when you go to cut. Like if that goat runs to the left or whatever, you're gonna have to break down and get your hips under you so that knee doesn't give out. And she is very coachable and just a great girl to work with. So, um, we tie the goat from the stake. She runs at the goat. She ties it. We had a good goat that would just stand there and not run right or left. So that was great for the first time going. And she makes a run, gets used to the tape, and gets down on the goat, ties it, runs through it a few times, does great. And so we also have her do a walking dismount from her horse and dismount at a trot and have her do that a few times. That all goes great as well. So Friday, we're looking at what is Saturday going to look like. So we're going to have to make a full speed run and see what that's going to look like. So Friday morning, we do our muscle activation, mobility, make sure that everything's lined up again. And then Friday night, same deal, tape, brace, put her through a functional warm up. She ties the goat on the ground. This goat is a little more waspy and wants to run off to the left. So we get to see how it's going to feel if she has that type of goat, which it did end up having that type of goat. So this goat runs to the left. She breaks down, goes to the goat, ties it, no issues, does great. And so we work on that for a few different reps, and then we get her on her horse, and we're about to go full speed. So I talked to her. I'm like, look, I know that you don't know what's going to happen here, but listen, trust the tape, trust yourself. You're doing great, and if you do anything, make sure you go full speed, because if you're trying to hold back, that's when bad stuff happens. So make sure you're going full speed. It's all going to work out. So she makes her first run. You tell she's just a little bit hesitant and makes her first run, gets on the ground, goes to the goat, ties it, does great. So, she now knows that that's going to hold up, and it's going to be a good deal. So next run, makes one more, makes a beautiful run, full speed, ties her goat, looks great. We're ready for Saturday. I mean, no question. We had taken her through a full progression at this point, back to activity. She's going to do great tying her goat. So Saturday morning, we get her ready. We get her taped up. She does her warm up, goes out there and makes a sub 8-second run. It was like 7-8 or something, and is in the top 20 in the round. Just an amazing girl. Did an incredible job. Worked incredibly hard. It doesn't all work out like that. That's not a common thing for an ACL tear to work out like that, but hers did, and I'm so thankful that it did for her, and just admire her hard work and determination. You see a little bit of everything. The goat tying, we usually have an ACL or two, and then we'll have broken bones and concussions and rolled ankles and just kind of a lot of things. And then you think about the nature of the sport. Most of the time, the injury, especially in the rough stock, those types of injuries are pretty serious most of the time. And then even in the timed event, if you have a horse go down or whatever, that can escalate to pretty serious too. And so, like I said, a lot of the people on the NHSRA have been doing this forever, and so they know how to prepare the ground, have their arena right, and really put on a good rodeo. You got your bullfighters that we take care of, and so you look at the whole deal. It's 13 total performances. You have 3 pickup men that work all those performances. You have 4 bullfighters that work all those performances, and of course us. And on our end, it's not anything crazy, but it's just a lot of time and everything else. But you think about the pickup men and the bullfighters. I mean, the pickup men are picking up 40, 50, 60 horses and stuff a day, or actually probably 40 in the morning, 40 at night or more, probably closer to 50 with re-rides and everything else. And then the bullfighters are fighting probably 50 to 60 bulls a day, and that's for 6 days. And
Mhm.
so it's a marathon, man, and it's hard on those guys. So we got to keep them going, and along with the kids. And we've had pickup men get hurt, we've had bullfighters get mucked out, and you got them in the trailer doing treatment right after, and then you're doing treatment before again, and just trying everything you can to because it's their livelihood,
Mhm.
and so they can't just take some time off. And if it's bad enough, like, sometimes, and not all the time, but some of the time, if it's bad enough, they'll have people come fill in and whatever. But I mean, most years you start with those four, you end with those four. And it's a it's a grueling process for those guys.
Yeah. It's a grueling process for everybody out there. I think,
It
we didn't go this year, but we were there the last 2 years, and it is a marathon for everybody involved. It's a quite an honor to make it. It is wonderful. It is the ultimate goal. Um, but yeah, it is a test of your will and testament. And I have to give a shout out to Team Nebraska, because even though we weren't there, Team Nebraska did a standout job. I think there were 18 kids from Nebraska that made it to the short round. It was amazing to see. It was fun to watch it all unfold from afar. But yeah, it's a testament to the program here in Nebraska. I always say these kids are salty and tough, and I think that showed when they were able to make it to the short round. So that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Nebraska did a great job. They had a ton of talent, and really the talent at the rodeo just keeps getting better and better. I mean, with the horsepower and caliber of kids, they covered a lot of bulls, and obviously they're not trying to bring like PBR style bulls to this deal, but I mean, you got kids of all levels. You think about a kid from Virginia or Maryland getting on a bull versus a kid from Texas. I mean, sometimes there's some difference in skill and what they can handle and everything else. So, and some of those bull riders are riding for like the PBR teams deal. You got some guys that are really doing it at the highest level. So, yeah, the caliber of kids there is huge. And then some of them are pro rodeoing and all that stuff. So you're trying to get these kids healthy for not only that deal, but what they have next. And it's not a deal. Like I said, they work hard all year to do this. And so for an injury to stop them at this point, I mean, you're going to exhaust all options. And so that's why I really, really appreciate the experience on our team and diversity of our team is we all bring different things to the table, different strengths and a ton of experience. So, did that, got banged up, had a concussion early in the week, and so he didn't get knocked out or anything, and he was having symptoms, and so we're like, okay, what can we do? It's not just a rest deal for us. What can we do? And so luckily working with Dr. K's, I'd learned a lot of stuff that we could do, so we work on his neck. I had our chiropractor fix his jaw, and then I was giving him some vestibular exercises, balance and eye exercises to be working on. Told him how many times a day to do it, and even in one day he come back and I'm like, all right, we're doing pretty good. He comes back day two, we're almost a different person, and day three we're symptom free and looking really good. And so and again, we had the luxury of time with that deal, and that was nice too. But um there always is something that you can do, and sometimes it may not work, and then sometimes it works out great. And that's what you live for, is those times that it works out great. And so if he would have come back and was still having symptoms and we didn't feel like it was safe for him to ride, then we'd have held him out. But because we did those other things, he rode, and was safe, and it was a good deal, symptom free, and passed all the testing, and it worked out great for him. So,
Yeah.
those are the types of things that, a guy really challenges himself and really, like, at this level, loves to do, and you just end up loving that challenge of helping these kids compete no matter what. I mean, there's just it's just a different mentality.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that I'm glad you brought up the Dr. K's uh protocol and what he had done. And for those of you that haven't listened to Dr. K's um interview with us, that is, it sheds a whole new light on concussion, and that's great to hear that you were able to get him symptom free within, did you say 3 treatments? Three
Yeah,
days?
yeah,
Yeah.
3 days, and really day two he was exponentially better. I mean, he said he woke up with like a small headache or something, and then by that night, and I'm telling you, like, he's coming and seeing me during the perf at night, talking to me on the fence,
Mhm.
and I mean, it's loud, and they're playing, and I'm standing right by the announcer stand on
Mhm.
the fence watching. I don't know. I think I was watching the Rough Stock Arena at that time, and he's visiting with me, and I mean, it's loud right there, and he's like, "Hell yeah, I woke up with one. Don't have one right now." I'm like, "I don't know how you don't have one right now. It's loud as hell right here, but that's a good sign,
Yeah.
But anyway, I just think that stuff gets underestimated on, like, some people get stuck in there, like, either because they don't know, or they've been taught a certain way or whatever. It's always like expanding your knowledge and trying to figure out what can I do, rather than there's nothing we can do,
Mhm.
or you're just done. Because that when I was competing, that was the worst thing somebody could have told me, and especially at the national finals, like, I'd be like, "No, I ain't listening to you." I mean, and head injuries are completely different most of the time. I mean, you have to protect. You only have one brain,
Mhm.
and there's no amount of tape I can put on that,
Mhm.
and you're gonna have to have it the rest of your life. And so, there are situations where we've had to hold people out, and then there's, that it's, and I think nowadays with the knowledge around concussions and stuff like that, you don't see as much of that at all. I mean, you just don't. So, um, you know, yeah, you just try to do everything you can for these kids.
Mhm. Mhm.
And even, like, we've had kids roll an ankle and roll it pretty bad, not break it. If it's something that we think needs evaluated, we make the plan ahead of time, and we know where to send them and where the ambulances are going and all that stuff. And that's just a whole nother facet of it. It's not just getting them ready to compete, but it's having a plan when something happens in the arena, and you're talking to your EMS on the truck, and you're talking to the local medical people, so you have somewhere to refer somebody if you need to. And then just having a guy for every instance. Like, we had Dr. Moffat, who family practitioner, and he, like, you have somebody come in that gets sick or whatever, like has strep or something. Well, he can evaluate that right there in the trailer, prescribe them some meds, and then they can go get their meds and be on the mend throughout the whole week. I mean, it's just a really cool deal to be able to provide that service for those families, for those kids, because they're out of their element too. I mean, obviously, and you have a ton of people from out of state. Some people travel thousands of miles to get there, and so being able to direct them or take care of them when they're away from home and don't know what to do, and then helping them with a plan for when they get back home is also another big part of this.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great service, and you guys even work on parents when they're when they're out there.
I think Doc Blanton, he cracks and racks about 30 to 40 people per. I mean, he's always got somebody on his table, and then I can slide a kid in there, and just he does magical things with those hands. I mean, he's incredible.
Yeah. And I think the importance of having somebody that has rodeoed and understands the mindset, most of the time when people go see a healthcare practitioner and they're wanting to get back to competing, most of the time you're met with a, well, that's too dangerous to do that. You need to be out for, however long. And sometimes, yes, you do need to sit it out, but I think it's such an advantage to have people that understand what the sport is, how it is our passion, and how it keeps us all going. And so, that's wonderful that everybody on that team has experience and understands the the mindset and the drive of those people to get back in the arena. So that's
Right.
wonderful. Mhm.
And we have, I mean, it doesn't stop there. I mean, you get people pieced back together, and then you have specific tape jobs that you can do, whether it's for shoulder instability, ankle instability, knee instability, all of those things, elbow. I mean, you got to get creative, and there ain't a lot of the stuff that we do that's in the book.
Yeah.
We picked it up somewhere, or we made it up on another person. I mean, it's just they're like, well, can you tape this? And initially you're like, ooh, I don't know if I can. And then you just like, hold on, let me think about this. Okay, you need to be able to do this, this, and this with your arm.
Mhm.
Okay, I think I can do it. It just, and it may not work the first time. And so you kind of have to do it a couple times to figure out what works. But um, I don't know. That's just a great challenge also, is figuring out what tape jobs can work and stuff like that. And I wouldn't fault people for coming and asking. When you're there,
Mhm.
come see us if you're not sure, you're hurting or whatever. And even if you think that it's too far gone to be able to compete, there might be something we can do. Not every time, but there might be something that we can do that um, you may not think of, or someone else hasn't thought of even. So
Yeah, for sure. It doesn't hurt to ask.
no, and we accept anybody that comes in there, and like you said, like my knees working on all the parents while we're working on the kids, and talking them up. So just the networking and connections that you make out there too. I mean, you know, working with those kids and getting to meet their parents and everything, and making those connections with people from other states is just a really awesome thing. And we're all there for the same reason, and that's to help these kids compete. And parents are no different. And so, and you're taking care of people's little babies. I mean, it ain't like the pro rodeos and college rodeos. Like, kid gets hurt, you're probably gonna have a parent coming to that trailer, and you're gonna have to fill them in on what's going on, and it's gonna be right there.
Mhm.
And then also, like, having a parent trust us, see their kid get hurt in the arena, and be able to have the restraint to come to the fence but not come in the arena, and let us do our job, get them packaged up and stabilized and out of the arena, and meeting us back at the trailer. Um, hats off to those parents that have that restraint, and can trust us to do our job too. I mean, it's definitely not taken lightly.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, that's a great service that you guys do and offer, and so thank you for being there for the coverage.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So,
All right. So, any other recap things you want to touch on? You been able to team rope any?
no, I haven't. Actually started riding my 3-year-old, and so I haven't had a colt to ride in a long time, and so being able to get back on her and get back in the swing of riding the colt, I took her outside and rode her in the pasture yesterday, and she did good. And so we had her at a guy for we had a guy put 30 days on her, and then got her back, and I've been trying to keep going with her and stuff. So it's been fun. We got some good horses coming up, I hope,
Good.
and yeah, being able to ride colts again is a good deal. I haven't rode one in a while, so it was nice to be able to get on something and be able to teach it to release the pressure and everything like that, and watch her come around and figuring it out is just really fun. So
Yeah, it's fun, especially if they retain what you step off and then the next day you get on and they remember it. I always was excited about that. And I always thought, oh, this is a nice Colt because he remembers what we did yesterday. It's the ones that don't. You're like, oh my gosh, every day is a new day and it just a struggle bus. But you really like it when those Colts remember what you taught them before.
Yeah, and I would say like, covering these events just wakens my want to rodeo and ride horses even more.
Mhm.
Um, you watch those kids compete, you remember what you did back when you were competing, and it just kind of keeps you going, watching people succeed and do those things and bring horses that they probably, have had for a long time or their parents had and they're riding now. I mean, that's just a lot of really cool stuff up there that reminds you how special what we do is and inside and out of the arena and really cool deal. We did have one pretty serious situation and this is one of those deals where you don't see it very often. And like I said, the only ambulance we called was in the timed event arena. And so during the team roping one day, I'm on the far end of the rough stock arena and looking down the chutes, and we're almost done with the bull ride. And I see a team roping horse going down the arena, and then I see it go end over end, and its feet come over, and I'm like, "Holy cow, that looked bad!" And the healer bails off and goes to whoever's on the ground, and it's bad. And so we're bucking bulls, and I get down and we're on the other side. There's 6 chutes on left or right, and so I go to the other side. We're about to buck the last bull, and we watch that bull buck, and everybody's safe. And then boom, we're immediately in the time event arena to help out, and see what help they need, and we have team members going to get EMS. We got team members stabilizing the girl and everything else, and she was in bad shape, and so we have her stabilized and all work together with EMS to get her packaged and sent the right way. And just having in those situations, people having feel and knowing what you need in that at that time, knowing like we don't all go to one spot. We got people go get EMS, get them involved, and we have a person on the head running the show, and that's a big deal for any young professionals out there when these situations don't happen very often, but you got to be ready for them. And so anytime that I'm going to cover the high school finals, I'm walking through my head, all right, this injury, what am I going to do? This situation, what am I going to do? And I'll exhaust that just kind of a walkthrough in my head. So when it happens, I've already walked through it enough in my head that it just becomes second nature at that time.
Mhm.
And so you always think just having a plan for those situations for yourself and then with your team is something that's very important. I would stress to any young professional or team out there, and anybody that's done it a long time, they already know how important that is. So
Now, do you guys sit down and have, I mean, you use pretty much the same people every year there, but
yeah,
is there a meeting ahead of time to be like, okay, Destry, you're doing this, and Joe, you're doing that, and if something major happens in the arena, is there a time that you guys all sit down and you plan that out, or since you've been all doing it together for so long, you all kind of know what your roles are?
yeah. So we we plan out how we're gonna cover the facility. So when they get there, we look at the different parts of the facility, and you're covering both arenas. There's two arenas running at the same time every performance, and so um, we all talk and we're like, all right, where's the best spot to cover this arena? Where's the second best spot? Who can we put here? And then we rotate through those spots. So like there we had somebody on one end of the buck and shoots, the other end, and then the timed event, and then somebody always in the trailer in case somebody comes there. And then the docks kind of float between both, and any of those situations, most of the time the doc's going to take a lead, or, if they're comfortable with us handling the situation, we got it. they'll let us keep the head. And like I said, you're running the show, so you got to know each person's job and be able to execute at that time. And time is of the essence. So I mean, you got to be efficient with it. Do your eval, stabilize, get them packaged, get them in the truck, and get them going. And even some of that is just like crowd control. I mean, like there was at the Times event arena, the ambulance is down there by the boxes. And so you have all these horses and people hanging out right there in front. And so you got to get all them cleared out so the ambulance can get in there and everything else. And so there's definitely a lot of moving parts in those situations.
I bet. I can't imagine. And I think it's probably something that most people don't even think about. They just kind of take it for granted. So, but thankful that you guys get it figured out and do good coverage of it. And it's great too that we're getting more sports medicine coverage at these rodeos. There's more and more teams out there, so that's awesome. I know the college rodeos usually have a sports medicine team there at them. Most of the pro rodeos do around this area anyways. And we are fortunate enough to have Ortho Nebraska, Great Plains. They supply them for our high school rodeos. So that is wonderful to have that service available.
Yeah, it's nice to see the profession growing and people seeing the value of having someone there to help keep these kids safe and just really, I mean, just help give some direction in those emergency times or when their kid gets injured, just having somebody to provide some direction on what the next step needs to be is huge because especially in those rural areas that they don't have a ton of access to that. So having a medical professional there to guide them in the right direction for their area is huge.
Yeah.
And being able to network with like people in different parts of the state or different parts of the country for the rodeo thing is huge and pass along information to the next rodeo. Um, that's also another special deal that is provided.
Yeah. I think it kind of goes to what the trends we're seeing in the rodeo world is that we're starting to take this more serious, that these are rodeo athletes. It's not just competitors, we are athletes. And so it just is starting to elevate the care of the athletes more. I mean, we're seeing more people hitting the gym, instead of hitting the bar. It's been more of we're taking this serious in our competition. We want to be at the top of our game. And so the providing the medical coverage at these things, it just helps to, I guess, complement that this is a sport that is very dangerous. You can get hurt at it. And let's provide the coverage to these athletes as well. So I think it is just part of the evolution of making this more of a legitimate athletic endeavor instead of just a sideshow, really.
Yeah, and being able to focus on the prevention of things too and make your body more resilient to injury. Like you said, it's not if, it's when and how bad most of the time when people talk about injuries in rodeo and no one's immune to that. I mean, we saw it last week in the time event arena now.
Yeah, for sure. And that brings me to I've had some prior clinic participants I seen on Facebook this week. I have a gal that she was in a bad horse accident down at bonus race finals a few years ago. And she'd come to a clinic wanting to get stronger. And, she's an elderly gal. I guess I don't know exactly how old. And she posted pictures of her being at the gym. She had been going to the gym for the past like 3 months. And so I think it's awesome. She's probably in her 60s would be my guess. I think that's great. We're just seeing more and more people understanding that you don't just have to sit back and accept father time as being, the defeating factor for you to end your career. And so that was good. I've been able to get to barrel race a little bit, and I got to share this little tidbit with everybody. as getting back to competing, so I've been working hard with Destri's help on a program, but I felt like my horse, as he went into second barrel, was going in with his rib in instead of, lifting it up and having a nice good body position. And I was really on the struggle bus, and then when I wouldn't, we'd get past the barrel. And so anyways, we decided to switch him to the left barrel first, because it was my second barrel that was giving me my biggest issue, because I thought, well, I can shape him a little bit better going in there to first versus trying to get it done between first and second, when I go to the right barrel. Anyways, also took a trip to the vet, just getting the Gracie's horses ready for fall season. And I told my vet, this is what we're dealing with. And I just feel like there's something that we're missing. And sure enough, he had starting to get some cysts on his navicular. And we started him on Osphos a week ago. And last night I did a cruise through, and I am so stinking excited because I've never felt this horse feel this good. So we're going barrel racing today. I feel like my confidence level is shooting up there. And after that little run through last night, man, Gracie looks at me and she goes, "We're going to have first and second tomorrow at the barrel race, Mom." And I'm like, I hope so. So it's just keep on. If you're feeling something that you just, something's not right, it may take a while to dig through those layers. But you can get help to get off the struggle bus. Don't just think you have to stay on the struggle bus. So just seek out people to help you get off of that thing. So
Yeah. And how many times do people come to us, Becky, and they've been like, oh, I've tried physical therapy, or I've tried this, or, whatever. I'll still listen and just ask them what they've tried, what they haven't tried, and we're gonna do what they haven't tried, and maybe revisit some of the things they have tried. And so, um, just because something didn't work out at one place, and don't be afraid to get a second opinion over here, because if it's truly what you want to do and everything else, uh, I mean, we've dealt with some crazy stuff, like crazy, and and it can be intimidating, some of the problems that people bring to us, and they're like, so this is what I'm trying to do, and this is what I've got. And normally somebody would be like, no way, you're you're out of your mind. But we're gonna listen to them, and we're like, let's find a way. We may not know that way right at that time, but we're gonna attack each part of it and get it a little bit better each time, and then by the end of it, who knows where we are in a month or two. So
yeah.
don't I'm gonna echo that. Don't give up. Don't be afraid to get a second opinion. Don't be afraid to call us. And if we can't help you, maybe we know somebody that can. That's just as important to us as getting you to the right hands, even if we can't help you. So
Yeah, and just some of the connections. I evaluated a horse the other day with side bones, and I had rehabbed a horse for these people before, so they brought him to me to see if there was anything else we could do. And it was just a matter of helping her get to another person. There wasn't anything I could do to help him, but I referred her on to my vet. And because I had took videos of the horse, discussed it with my vet while I was there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I try this, this, this," and those are all things that they hadn't tried yet. So sometimes it's just consulting and throwing some ideas around, like, okay, maybe this is the combination that would work for this horse, or just getting the set of eyes on it that maybe has more experience dealing with those diagnoses, or the different combinations of things to try. Sometimes you've tried these different things, but you didn't try them together, or I don't know if that makes any sense or not. It's kind of like when we add dry needling into a person's program, you know, I like to do my dry needling before I do a lot of treatment, so it helps relax the muscles. Whereas somebody else might have had the dry needling done at the end of their treatment. And then, just the change in your body from that, how does that respond? And so sometimes it's just a matter of how do you sequence that treatment too. So there's a lot of different ways to go about, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, different ways to skin a cat. And so that's sometimes you just need to change it up a little bit and see how it works. So don't be afraid to try different things.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I think that's all I have. And anything else you can think of?
Nope, that's it for today. So, um, all right. Well, I guess I'll close it out. Thank you all for listening. And as always, let your health be the pivot point to your success.